Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and United States President Donald Trump have held a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Evian, France, speaking on various aspects from sanctions on Russian oil to issue of Indian seafarers. In fact, Trump has also responded to NewsX's exclusive question on the Russian oil sanctions. Trump saying if India is attacked, US will help India. President Trump also recalled his previous visit to India as well. Prime Minister Modi has said the opening of Hormuz is vital for the global economy. Also, the issue of the Indian seafarers was brought up in that meeting as well. Joining us to decode the meeting, Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian. Joyita, what do you make of the meeting and what was discussed?
Well, from whatever I could gather from the press conference, Mr. Trump was full on. I mean, he was kind of praising Mr. Modi to the skies. You see, that is very important and interesting, primarily because given the kind of bad blood that there has been between India and the US, particularly after, I would say, Operation Sindoor that took place sometime, I think, in May last year. Ever since India-US relations have kind of been on a downhill, and for various reasons. We know that when it comes to from H-1B visa to tariffs, whatnot, and the kind of nasty comments even Mr. Trump has made about India. But I don't think he has made anything against Mr. Modi in person, but he has made the nastiest comments. And apart from that, his supporters, the kind of attacks that India has faced from his supporters. If you go online, the MAGA base, it is so terribly anti-India. The kind of campaign that is going on against India on the media channels affiliated, more close to this thing. So we thought this relationship is gone. Of course, Ambassador Gore has been trying to get things back on track, but it has not been helped. Because you see, we have been facing a very, very hostile US. Okay? So I think that way, and there have been reports that Mr. Modi has been refusing to pick up Mr. Trump's call. So to an extent, I would say Mr. Trump was trying to undo the damage that he and his extremely, I would say virulent supporters, they have done to India-US relations. And Mr. Modi also was very fulsome. He gave fulsome praise to Mr. Trump and his role in securing quote-unquote peace in West Asia. So, but the thing is, you see, the kind of negativity that we see coming from the US every day, for us, it is very difficult right now to say for certain that yes, the relationship is back on track. Well, the proof of the pudding is in eating. Time will tell whether we can get back to what it was primarily during Mr. Trump's first term.
Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat, also joins us now on the broadcast. Ambassador Kapoor, do you see this as a total reset in US-India ties? What do you make of the agenda items that were brought up and discussed during this meeting with Donald Trump and Narendra Modi, a meeting that was months in the offing? And, of course, a lot is being read into the statements as well made by both the leaders after the meeting in the press briefing. Your biggest takeaway, Ambassador Kapoor.
Thank you, Uday Pratap. It's such a pleasure to be back on NewsX. And like I've been mentioning in this channel and other channels, the relationship had got into a very, very difficult situation from where it was very difficult to retrieve during the tenure of the current administration here. But this is an effort which is being made very, very seriously. And I think it's important reset. It's an important acknowledgement of India's role. And it's an important sort of sensitization to his own administration and to his own people and advisors that henceforth we have to deal in a slightly more sensitive manner with India. We cannot be ham-handed, we cannot be high-handed. So I think all those messages will go home because of his, as our distinguished panelist has mentioned, Joyita, fulsome praise for the Prime Minister, and about him in person, exactly, sitting in front of him on his side. So it's something which is quite unusual. And how long it will last is the next question. Well, we don't know. Whether it's going to be a temporary phase or a long-term aspect is yet to be seen. But I would conjecture that if Trump survives in the November elections, which are due in a few months from now, then it will last through the rest of his term and only get amplified during his term and beyond that. Because the realization in the strategic community here and in the other think tanks and amongst the academics and analysts and geopolitical thinkers is that the most important relationship for the US is the one with India, and this can become the driving partnership for the 21st century, provided there is some sensitivity to the concerns of the other side. Now, if they do sort of persist with that understanding and then try to resolve what are the issues, what are the areas of concern to India, and India also becomes a little more proactive, for example, towards their concerns, because it is not that America is not facing challenges, is not facing problems. America is facing very, very difficult challenges and problems. In the Indo-Pacific, in terms of the internal domestic situation, in terms of wokeism, in terms of the jihadi aspects of terrorism, in terms of the economy, in terms of the energy prices. And I go to buy my groceries, the cost has gone up, the electricity bills have gone up, the gas bills have gone up very significantly. So it's affecting all the Americans, and Americans are going to be voting in a transactional manner. Now, if this situation persists for another month, I think it will become very difficult for the Republicans to have a good showing in November, which will seal the end of this administration for all practical purposes, because it will become, as he has himself been saying, that the Democrats will start the impeachment proceedings immediately if the Republicans don't shape up and wake up. But he has to understand that the economy has to also recover, and very quickly too, because if it does not, it's not a good portent. On the other side, vis-a-vis the US-Iran deal, I think both the sides were at the end of the tether in different ways in their own calculus. So it was essential to bring in this temporary peace. I don't think it's going to be lasting at all. The maximum it may last is till December. I don't see it lasting a day beyond that, because it's a very artificial deal. In the sense, if I put together the other opposing sides into a room and I keep on asking them what is your maximalist demands, and then I keep on telling the other side, oh, you must agree to that because it's not very important. You have to come to an agreement, and even if it is short term, but agree to the demands for the time being. So the same thing has been said to the Americans, the same thing has been said to the Iranians. And of course, the deal makers are very notorious. They are the epicenter of terrorism in the world. And besides Iran, which is also a very important source of terrorism to the world. So to have a mediator like that itself is a very dubious aspect. So what deals you'll get are something which are going to be very dubious. But it sounds good on paper. It brings the situation temporarily under control for both the sides, because both the sides cannot afford the war to last a few more days for their own internal domestic compulsions and other compulsions, global compulsions. So that is why that has been agreed to in France at Evian, where the two leaders met recently. Of course, it was very good optics, very good statements, particularly by Trump, because when he is faced with a lot of,
Yes.
subdued
Absolutely. Absolutely. There were a lot of positives
leaders
in the meeting. Ambassador Kapoor, just hold that thought. I'll come back to you. I want to quickly get in the others as well for their opening comments. Raymond Vickery, former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce, is joining us live from Washington, D.C. Raymond Vickery, let's get the United States perspective from you. What the US media is making of this meeting, what you interpret of this meeting as well that has happened in the sidelines of the G7, all that has been discussed, all the outcomes, and what you made of the body language of the two leaders when they met, and what they said to the press after the meeting as well.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It seems to me that this meeting is helpful to stop the downward slide, which has been occasioned by President Trump and his erratic approach to tariffs and to the whole question of the importance of the U.S.-India relationship. He went to see Xi in China, really without consulting India, and the long list of slights, calling the Indian economy dead and saying even worse things, is somewhat ameliorated by this. But make no mistake about it, this half an hour meeting with comments and praise is no substitute for substantive progress in regard to each of these issues, both strategic and economic, which face the U.S.-India relationship, which I would argue is the most important, one of the most important in the world. What really has gone on at the G7, it's like a family meeting when you have a rich and erratic uncle and you're trying to walk around him and figure out what else you can do without offending him. Blandishment is a part of that. So I don't think it's realism. I think President Trump is an expert at creating a reality which doesn't exist. And the important things, it seems to me, are going on behind the scenes between India and the EU, talking about free trade agreement and when it'll be concluded, talking about all of the questions in regard to oil. It is up to the other great democracies of the world now to fill in the gap which has been created by President Trump and his administration's abdication of its position as the leader of the free world. So yes, I'm glad the meeting took place. This is an extremely important time for the U.S. and India, but we're going to have to come substantively to grips with issues like the oil importation. This agreement is really with Iran is nothing but a step back to where we were in 2015, as much as Trump says to the otherwise. You know, President Trump is an absolute expert in creating a problem and then only partially solving the problem that he's creating and then claiming victory because of a partial solution to the problem, which is a ridiculous way to approach international affairs, much less the challenges faced domestically.
All right, let me quickly bring you in here as well, Major General Kochhar, defense expert, who also joins us on whether this meeting then has provided that much needed breakthrough on US-India ties. Do you believe a complete reset now has happened at the highest levels, or will we have to wait and watch this space for the next few weeks?
No, the advantage of you speaking last is that I've heard all the three speakers.
Yes.
So I can articulate my thoughts in a slightly better manner. So now it's like this. A reset cannot take place in a meeting like 1 hour you beat and all that, because the fissures are deep, and those fissures need to be addressed. And starting with the trade deal, you see, if the intent of the two countries or the two leaders is good, it does not take long to finalize a trade deal. So there are differences. And when both sides are negotiating hard, I think the deal is not taking place. I just read one important comment in the print media saying that the deal is a very long way to go. So I was under the impression that it is reaching a culmination point, but I don't think it is reaching a culmination point. So that is one contentious issue when these two leaders are meeting. Possibly, I would like also to take your attention to what Prime Minister Modi said at the beginning of the G7 summit, that there is a lack of trust in this world, and you see, unless nations pose trust in each other, they cannot be a long-standing partnership. So it was a subtle message to Americans also to suggest that we need to trust each other and slightly more. The way America is interfering in our own neighborhood, because I'm closely studying that in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Manipur, other areas. So these are areas of concern. And when a Deputy Secretary of State who visits India in a Regina dialogue, he makes a statement saying that we need to contain India, and we faltered in doing that with China. We will not make the mistake as far as India is concerned. So that is putting a seed in the minds of the Indians also, that this relationship is not going to go very, very strong and very, very far. Notwithstanding that, defense, I would like to take your attention to what Donald Trump has mentioned. I think this is a significant thing, because he mentions that in case of aggression on India, United States will stand by India. So I want to see that, because in case we are going to war with Pakistan, I would like to see the stand of my friend Munir, which Donald Trump keeps on reiterating. Is he going to stand by India, or it's mere rhetorics here? So I think that is one point. Second point, I would like to see a greater cooperation as far as defense is concerned between India and United States. The jet engine is one contentious issue. See, 180 engines were ordered in 2021. We have just listed a dozen of them. Is it a deliberation on part of America to delay our Tejas project, or it is something else? So these are another contentious issues coming into play. And my last point is energy security. And I would stress about this point that the United States is pitching for India to buy oil and gas from Venezuela and US at 4 times the cost. Why should we not go to the Russia? And why these sanction things are coming on Russia once again? I would like a greater clarity on this.
All right.
Because it suits India to buy from Russia and also Iran.
Yeah.
Because now,
you know, and that was the NewsX question. That was the NewsX question posed to the US President. It was on this very issue of Russian oil. Okay, stay with us. More breaking news coming in. Pakistani media has also reported on Prime Minister Modi raising the issue of safety of Indian seafarers. As per the headline, it reads, safety of Indian seafarers critical. India's Modi tells Trump. In the article, it states Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has told US President Donald Trump during a bilateral meeting that safety of Indian seafarers working in the Strait of Hormuz areas of utmost concern to New Delhi, quote unquote. Pakistani media has also picked up now on the Trump-Modi bilateral. Joyita Basu, Pakistan media has reported on India's Modi raising issue of Indian seafarers with America's Trump.
Yes, I mean, Uday, it was what expected that they would be very keenly watching, because primarily because you see, Pakistan is nowadays punching above its weight. You know, way above its weight. I mean, what is it? A bankrupt little country whose economy is not even the size of Maharashtra's economy or Tamil Nadu's economy, just because the kind of attention that it gets from Trump. That's why Pakistan has started thinking no end of itself. You know, and if you have seen the kind of narrative that is there on social media, that India has ceased to matter. And so, you know, we are the ones who are setting the agenda of the world. Although now we are getting to know that it is basically they're acting like a courier, you know, the messenger. Just the way you post a message over there, they relay it to the world. You need somebody like that. When actually the hard work, or actually I'm not even going to say the hard work, I mean some kind of work was done by Qatar. And the thing is, you see, so Pakistan was all very keen to watching this. So they would naturally pick it up to see, did Trump, you know, give Mr. Modi a little more importance than what he gives to?
Absolutely. And they must be rattled. They must be rattled. They must be rattled, particularly after that statement. If India is attacked, the US will be there for India if Narendra Modi is the leader. Major General Kochar. Pakistan media reporting on the seafarers issue. One wonders what Pakistan also thinks of that statement, Major General Kochar.
Yeah, I would like a reaction from Pakistan, because this is a very far-reaching statement, because in times of war, which I think is imminent, because the way things are happening on the border, keep on assessing it, and our own preparations are going on on a very solid footing. Uh, this is a very significant statement I would like to highlight here. And I would definitely demand a reaction from General Munir, because it would have shaken him up, and possibly he won't sleep tonight. Because I can make out, because he was having very, very high hopes from the US of backing Pakistan. But in case Trump has made this statement, and see, this is not a small statement. Let us not take it as a rhetoric, because it's a very, very important statement which actually comes, and possibly his foreign office has penned down this for him, that in case you want to assuage, or you want to bring back the relationship between India and the United States, I think you'll have to speak something like that. So I think it is a work towards that, because now possibly America is realizing that India is not a pushover, and it's a big market as we all know it, and America is dependent on the trade as far as India is concerned. And let me also remind you that $500 billion thing, because by 2030, America expects the trade between India and America to go up to $500 billion. How does it go? So the areas are defense, the areas are energy, oil, gas. So unless India is going to reciprocate, and the way America is treating India, I don't think India is going to reciprocate. So I think possibly there is a lot of homework which has gone into making this statement, and definitely they would like to hear from Pakistan.
Let's in fact now listen in to the top 5 statements made by the United States President Donald Trump today after this meeting with India.
How is that? Is that a good statement? Okay, come here, man. If anybody attacks that man, we're going to be there. Now, if there's a new leader, I'm not sure about it. Okay. If there's a new leader, I don't know about that. But if they're attacked and he's the leader, we're going to be there to help. And we have, and I will say this, and everybody says it. I heard about that. It's a rough profession. There's no question about it. And we work together on it. This has been happening throughout time, but we work together on it. Yeah, certainly. We love all of those people. They're great people. I think it's a great relationship. I can tell you this, without having a contract, we don't have a contract. You'd have to write contract. But if they were attacked, we would be there to help them. We've been there for a little while, and he's a very tough negotiator. He's one of the toughest, actually. So you look at this man. I'll give you a lesson. He's the most beautiful looking man. He looks so nice. He's like an angel. But actually, he's as tough as he's a killer. I don't want to. He's a killer. He's as tough as they come. But he looks so good. So he gets you by surprise. Yeah, I do. I do. I think India plays a big role in everything. As long as he's the leader, India's going to play a big role.
More breaking news, in fact, also coming in this hour. Prime Minister Modi has announced India-UK FTA has come into effect. PM Modi has called this a historic milestone for India-UK relations. PM Modi has also said the deal will unlock numerous opportunities for Indian farmers, workers, MSMEs, startups and innovators, as well as contribute meaningfully to the realization of Viksit Bharat 2047. Both PM Starmer and I, who are in Evian for the G7 summit, are naturally very happy with the significant momentum being added to our economic ties, quote unquote. So big statement being made. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, India, has formally announced that the India-UK FTA, that is a free trade agreement, will come into effect from the 15th of July. It's a historic moment for India-UK ties, is what Prime Minister Modi has said. This statement being put out by him just a few hours after meeting Keir Starmer of the UK in Evian, France.
Well, as we have seen from the videos of the gathering of the G7 leaders, One of the important participants in that entire gathering is Prime Minister Modi. We have seen how all the other leaders have been coming up to greet him in particular, how they have been talking to him, and the statements that have been made, and how the positioning has been done even for the photo ops with Prime Minister Modi on the left of the host, Macron, and Donald Trump to his right. So Meloni also has Prime Minister Meloni also.
Absolutely, I'll come to all of that in just a second. Let's just talk specifically about the India-UK FTA. How big a fillip will it give trade and economic ties for the two countries now that it has been agreed to and will formally come now into effect? Numerous opportunities for farmers, for MSMEs, is what the Indian Prime Minister has said. Ambassador Kapoor.
Thank you, Uday. Indeed, it's a very great step which has been taken by the two countries. It had been under negotiations for a very, very long time, and both the sides were not giving in. And it has finally happened. So it's a cause for celebration because it will again help in increasing our bilateral trade significantly, which was already quite high. But this trade FTA with India, between India and UK, will also help in a lot of other sectors, which will also set the path for the future in terms of discussions about exchanges of people, exchanges of services, and the income tax aspects, the multilateral, bilateral agreements. So it will open up a lot of new areas, and it will lead to a lot of benefits for both the countries, particularly as the statements have come out about the specific sectors. It will also be an indicator to the US that with their trade negotiations with India, they definitely need to be more sensitive to India's concerns, and that is going to help both the countries, India and US, if they have to achieve their target of 500 billion by 2030. Otherwise, it's going to be a very difficult objective. So India, EU, India, UK, all these are setting the sort of stage for India-US FTA also to happen very soon. Thank you, Uday.
All right, the United States President Donald Trump is now addressing the media. Let's go across.
Develop it, buy it. They can never have a nuclear weapon. At the same time, with this announcement or close to it, as people started to think it was going to happen when Iran was making some very positive statements, the stock market has surged to record highs, picking up thousands of points over the last short period of time, thousands of points. And oil is dropping like it has never dropped before at levels that went in numbers down $7, down $8. They've never seen anything like that. But if we didn't do this deal, we could have dropped more bombs for another 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 years. You would never have the Hormuz Strait open. You would never have success. Your market would have, instead of going up at levels that nobody's ever seen before, would go down at levels that nobody ever saw before, maybe except for 1929 or whatever. And all the tough guys don't realize that this wasn't a 3-month deal. This was years in the making. You know why? Because I was the one that killed General Soleimani. And if I didn't kill General Soleimani, we probably wouldn't be talking right now about this deal, because he was a mad genius. They never were able to replace him. But a lot of people forget that. The tough guys, the tough guys that would drive the country right down the tubes. The past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of this historic agreement with many of our closest friends and allies, including the G7 nations and many presidents and prime ministers. As you saw, Prime Minister Modi was here. We had a long talk. He's a great guy. I'm thrilled to report. And by the way, those last 2 days were brutal. $200 million worth of bombs. And, it is expensive too, by the way, aside from everything else. And they knew I was coming for a third night. We informed them we're coming for a third night. They didn't have their Navy, it's sunk. They didn't have their Air Force, it's gone, not one plane. They didn't have anti-aircraft equipment, so we got free reign. They didn't have their leaders. But they have a new group of leaders that I think is Actually, I think they're smarter. I think they're very smart. I think they're far less radicalized, and I think they're really good. They love their country. You know, you talk about regime change. Nobody will say that, but I guess that's, look, their one set of leaders is all gone. Their second set of leaders is all gone. Their third set of leaders a little bit gone, but for the most part, and frankly, I think that's regime change. I think they're going to behave much differently. I think they see a different way of life that they were never exposed to. So the one thing I didn't want to see is I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace, the stock market shot up like a rocket ship. It never went down. They didn't like it. The people, you know, the stock market is more brilliant than anybody there is, including the people on the stage, other than me, of course. Let's see. I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Is the stock market more brilliant than you?
No, sir.
Oh, that's a terrible statement. All right. The stock market is quite brilliant. And every time we said something amazing, like we're going to settle, it would go up. And every time we said something negative, like, guess what, we're not going to be able to settle, it would go down very big, Peter, right? Very, very big. Tells you something. And you know, I've studied presidents, some good, some bad, some great. Not too many are great. And some really bad. We had one just recently. And the one president I did not want to be was the late, great Herbert Hoover. I didn't want that. And who knows what would have happened. But bad things happen. So the past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of the deal with the closest friends and allies, heads of countries. They were all here, a lot of them. Far more than the 7, as you know, a lot of them. And they put out a statement. I think President Macron, who did a great job, by the way, did a really fan, him and Bridget, they did a great job. But they all put out statements saying they love this deal because they want to see it over. And they love the fact that the Hormuz, don't forget, if we were going to drop bombs, let's say we went another month, another 2, 3 months, maybe weeks, could be another 3 months, could be whatever. What do you have left? Got maybe nothing, but you don't have, the Strait will never be open because people that own billion-dollar ships, these ships cost $1 billion. They don't like sailing ships or having their ships participate when you go up the coast and you go through the Strait and there are rockets flying over your head. They want to protect their $1 billion investment. You wouldn't have oil for maybe years. These are stupid people. But nobody was tougher than me. Nobody hit Soleimani. You know, when I hit Soleimani, people thought that was the biggest thing to happen in the Middle East for 50 years. That was the biggest event. He was the boss of Iran and respected, but he was a mad genius. He was a genius, the father of the roadside bomb. When you see young men, and in some cases women, mostly men, walking around without legs, without arms, with a face that's been blown to smithereens, it's Soleimani, 95%. 96.2, they say, or something. 95%. That was Soleimani did it. Happened to come from Iran, and I blew him up. You remember that? I blew him up in the Valley of Death. He got off his plane, and we followed him. And in all fairness, because they've been wonderful to me, Israel, but they didn't want to do that attack. They were all set. The night before the attack, they informed me they didn't want to do it. So I had to make a decision. I made the decision to do it. But it was a joint venture, as we say in the real estate business. That was a joint venture between Israel and us. We studied it for a month. We knew what plane he was going to be on. Almost a month before, he only traveled on commercial airliners, big ones with lots of people, because he knew we wouldn't shoot him down. He's very smart. But we knew he was going to be on that plane. We followed him. And then Israel informed me that they won't do it. And I had to make a decision. I had some very good generals, and not the ones you see on television, very good. And I want to thank also Pete Hegseth and General Raisin Kane, who's phenomenal. Okay, these guys are phenomenal. They can't be better. But I had some good generals, and I said to him, well, if Israel's not going to do it, we're all prepared. Do we do it? Do you like doing it or not? He said, sure. If you want to do it, we can do it. How well? We'll do it just as well or better. Do it ourselves. We don't need anybody. So we took out Soleimani. One of the biggest events to happen, the Middle East, maybe ever, but they say 50 years, they say 100 years. I was with the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He said it's maybe the biggest event that has ever taken place in Islam. Nobody could believe it. So that's when it started. It didn't start like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago. And Obama wouldn't do it. What Obama did was he did the JCPOA. He loaded up a plane with $1.7 billion in green cash from banks all over Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. They were stripped of all their cash. They had no cash to do payrolls. It all went into a Boeing 757, a wonderful plane, and they flew it to Iran. And they gave it out to people. They bribed people. They thought they were going to get it done. Then they gave billions and billions of dollars after that. And they got a deal that was a road to a nuclear weapon. I get so angry, I guess. I'm allowed to get angry when I watch the Democrats. They talk about it all the time. We had this deal done. You had a deal that was going to give them, legally, a nuclear weapon. And if that happened, Israel would have been blown away. And in all fairness to Bibi Netanyahu, who happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes. But he happens to be a very good man. We've had an amazing partnership. He's been an amazing prime minister. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it that's from Hezbollah. But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner, and he's the very small partner, and that's true. So he came to the country, and he begged Barack Hussein Obama, the president, not to do the JCPOA. He said it could be the end of Israel, and it would have been if I didn't come along. And Obama didn't listen to him. Bibi actually went to Congress and pleaded with them, and he got nowhere. And they had this horrible deal that was horrible for Israel, and that's where it stood. And then I came along and I terminated that deal. It had very little time left. You know, it was a short-term deal. You know, with countries, you need hundreds of years. You don't need 8 years and 9 years. This isn't like you're signing a lease on a candy store in the corner. You need hundreds of years. This was a short-term lease. It expired long ago. Had I let it run, it expired. You wouldn't have been around. A lot of people wouldn't have been around. But Israel would have been terminated. I think the whole Middle East would have been terminated. You saw that when everybody was shocked that all these missiles, they were aimed at these different places. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. Think of it. Bahrain, Kuwait. They got hit. Nobody thought that was, even I didn't think it was going to happen. They didn't think it was going to happen. They were going to take out the entire Middle East, including Israel. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it within moments after getting it. So I made it very tough for them when I terminated the Barack Hussein Obama catastrophe. JCPOA, one of the worst deals. NAFTA might have been worse, but that was worse economically. This deal was really dangerous, what he did. He gave them everything, including a lot of money, which we don't give them, by the way, just in case you have any question. We'll be giving this out so you can read it and you can see. And it's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, that's all right. We go back to bombing. You know, I don't want to do that because it's so good. But we might have to because we're never going to let them have a nuclear weapon. But they've agreed not to, and you'll see that very clearly in the agreement. But then the second phase of that was they were building, or they were enriching material, as they say. I call it nuclear dust. They were enriching material under granite mountains. Granite being, for those not in the construction business, granite being a very strong, the strongest stone. It's not as pretty as marble, but it's much stronger. It's a lot stronger. Like the new granite I put on the stairs of the White House going to the Oval Office, the black granite, it's rated 1 million years plus. No marble's rated that. Marble's rated 100 years if it's outside. So these are granite mountains. And the B-2s came along and they hit those air shafts in the dark at 1 o'clock in the morning with no moon. They had a beam going right up everywhere. Those guys did a job, and then they were criticized by certain members of the press, like CNN, for possibly not doing that much damage. And it turned out that the damage was far greater. Those mountains collapsed right on top of everything. Nobody's going to get that for a long time. Unless we want to get it, we'll get it. But we're the only ones that can. And they say China has the equipment to get it, and we have the equipment to get it. And it's actually not valuable. Not a lot of value, but we'd like to get it psychologically, but nobody's touching it. We also have cameras. That's what Space Force is. We have the greatest military in the world, by the way. But I'm proud of Space Force because I started it. We have Space Force cameras on every single door, well, there are no doors. They've been pretty well shattered. But every area of that, if somebody walks in and he's got a badge with his name on it, like Mohammed something, which is about a 50-50 guess, Mohammed something, they can tell the name. They can give you a serial number. We can see things you wouldn't believe the quality of the stuff that we have. That's why we've been so successful. That's why our blockade will go down in the annals of history as being unbelievable. Nobody's ever seen a blockade like that. It's like a steel wall. So what happened is we then terminated that, and I call it the nuclear dust, and that was the end of that. But if we didn't hit that with the B-2 bombers, or if it wasn't successful, they would have had a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb at a very high level, not the highest, but it would have been a very high level. We have much bigger, but we hope that we're never going to have to use it. We have the most. Russia has second. China is very far behind, but going to catch up, unfortunately. You know, they're catching up, but we have the most. We have the most powerful, but we also have the most. But Russia's not far behind. And then you have China in third place, but within 5 years, they'll be probably even. And we ought to make a denuclearization deal. It would be so great. We don't need all of that. We don't need to be able to blow up the whole world 300 times over. It's terrible. Really, if we could do a denuke deal, I'd love it. And one of those two is very willing to do it, I will tell you. But the other one is less willing to do it. And you need all of them. So the deal we reached with Iran on Sunday will be signed shortly. Tomorrow, maybe the next day. Subject deals. My whole life is all about deals. That's all I ever did is make deals. And crazy things happen with deals. I've gone into deals where it's a guarantee. No way it can not be signed. And it doesn't get signed. And I've gone into deals that you have no chance of making, and they go like nothing. So, but we're going to most likely sign a deal. They want to sign a deal. And they've been acting very appropriately. They took a big 2 hits last week. Those were 2 very big hits. So importantly, Iran has agreed that they will neither produce nor procure a nuclear weapon. Neither produce, because originally they said, they talk about that they will not develop a nuclear weapon. And some people found it okay. These guys didn't, in all fairness. But some people... But I didn't like it. Said it won't develop. I said, what happens if they should buy? I don't know. It's very dangerous for somebody to sell, because whoever sells them a nuclear weapon will get nuked themselves. If they sold a nuclear weapon, only a few that could do it, they would be nuked. They wouldn't have that country long. So it's a very dangerous thing for somebody to do. But I wanted it in there. So it's develop, procure, buy, anything. And you'll see that when you see the agreement, but it's appropriate that we release the agreement. And we did send a copy to Israel, by the way. They've been a good partner. Again, I think they could do better with respect to Hezbollah. I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when 2 drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut. They could behave better. And frankly, they could do a better job. I love them as a partner. They were terrific. But they could do a much better job with Hezbollah. On that, I don't think they're doing well. And I feel very bad for Lebanon. Lebanon's been, you know, it was a great culture. They had the professors, the doctors, the lawyers. It was an incredible culture, maybe the highest in the Middle East for years and years, centuries. And for the last 50, 60 years, they have been just trashed. They have been living in hell. So they'll work closely with us to turn over the so-called enriched material that's very deep in the bowels of the earth, very deep. Nobody can get it. So it's not important that we do it quickly, but we could do it fairly quickly. When we have a chance, we'll do it. But in the meantime, we have cameras on every inch of it. Nobody can do it. And if they do, we'll hit them with Patriots, that's all. And they'll be gone. And they know that. Technical discussions on the removal of all stockpiles of enriched materials will begin immediately. We're going to start that immediately. And unlike Barack Hussein Obama, who sent Iran pallets of cash and any relief they receive under this deal, they'll have to get based on merit. And it won't be from us. We don't have to give them anything. But some people may want to invest. Like, what are you going to do? Say you can never, ever invest in a country? I mean, it's pretty tough. I don't mind being tough, but it's pretty crazy. You can invest in a country. You can invest in any country you want, but you can't invest there. Well, they need investment because we did $1.5 trillion, maybe $2 trillion worth of damage. So somebody's going to have to help them out. There's no guarantee about helping them out. And could be their neighbors will help them out a little bit. I don't know. But it's a lot of money. Almost nobody has that kind of money. That's the kind of damage that was done. But we're not investing any money. There was a fake story. There was a fake news story that got a man, a person, a good person. J.D. made a statement. It was a perfect statement. And they reported it in a very strange way. But that's why it's fake news, I guess. So we don't give them money. We don't give them any of that. And what happens is with time, if they behave, if they be a citizen of the world, a reasonable citizen of the world. And I think this group, again, I didn't do this for regime change, but I think this group is regime change. I mean, hey, the first group is dead. One little morning, having breakfast, the whole group, they thought they'd never be caught because we never bombed during breakfast, but we bombed. And they all, 88 people. And I'm not proud of it at all. But the second group came in and they were very unreasonable too. And they were all gone. They were all gone. And then the third group, we've been dealing with them. Couple left this planet, but we've been dealing with them. And again, they've been fine. I mean, I've had a lot easier. I've had some easier ones. They're tough, they're smart. Maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has already increased very substantially, and the normal flow of energy will resume in the coming days, and trillions of dollars will be made by the world, and the stock market will, I believe, continue to rise. The only difference is that a player that's very volatile, very tough, very smart, frankly, you know, they have, in one way, a primitive culture, but it's also a genius primitive culture. They're very smart people, very good negotiators, but so are we. So rather than possibly going into a depression, rather than having your favorite president be Herbert Hoover, I was always the one I didn't want to be. I wouldn't have preferred Nixon. I wouldn't have preferred, there were plenty I wouldn't prefer, but the one I always thought of, Herbert Hoover, and he caused it. He raised taxes too fast, and he raised interest rates too fast, all at the same time. And it caused the Great Depression. So I don't think I'll make mistakes like that. I lower taxes, I don't raise taxes. In fact, we just gave you the largest tax decrease, largest tax cut in the history of our country. So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said, you shouldn't give them one. I mean, I have guys, I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. Doesn't work that way, you know? It doesn't work that way. And missiles aren't the problem. Missiles they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet. So the Gulf nations will address the non-nuclear issues. We'll be talking about the ballistic missiles, and we'll talk also about the terrorist proxies that they have. That we don't want that to happen. But I want to thank our partners in both Pakistan and Qatar. These people work so hard. And they knew them a little bit. In the case of Pakistan, quite well. In the case of Qatar, they were sort of at odds. And, you know, Qatar was great because they had right next door. When I flew from there, from that location to Saudi Arabia, I'd fly for 40 minutes, and I'd fly to UAE for 40 minutes, to great leaders there, by the way. In the case of Saudi Arabia, the father's still alive, and he's fantastic, and the son is going to be great. He's going to be great. The Crown Prince and Mohammed at UAE is an incredible warrior. He was dropping bombs. Last week I said, who the hell's dropping all those bombs? It was UAE. He's a good fighter, Mohammed. But every administration for decades has sought to get Iran to relinquish its nuclear ambitions, but the threat only got bigger. The words got bigger and bigger and stronger and bigger, and nothing ever happened. And Iran got stronger and tougher. If we didn't blow them up the first time and then blow out those weapons, they would have been unstoppable. This should have done, what I'm doing and what I did, should have been done years ago. Would have been much easier, much less firepower, but it wasn't. And again, I want to thank all those countries, and I want to thank Israel and Bibi Netanyahu. So obviously the breakthrough would not have been possible without the unprecedented pressure the United States put on the regime over the past year and a half. But again, it started a long time ago. It started with the death of Soleimani. That was a big deal. No president in history has ever been tougher on Iran than I have, and they know that. And by the way, if they don't honor the agreement, or some things aren't even mentioned in the agreement, it's a memorandum of understanding, but we have an understanding of certain things without writing it. And if they don't honor that, we'll probably go back to bombing them until they honor it, you know? It's amazing what bombs can do. So I say it, the Obama deal was a road to a nuclear weapon, and let's call it the Trump deal, was a wall for a nuclear weapon that the nuclear weapon could not get through. Nobody's going to get through it. We built a wall. They weren't going to have it, and that's what we have right now. And it says very clearly, the most important clause to me, too, number one, the Strait opens, but that's much less important than the other clause. Clause number whatever, 5, 8, is a very strong statement that they will never have a nuclear weapon. And it doesn't say they'll have one in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. With Obama, they were able to enrich very quickly. This agreement now provides Iran with